6:35 p.m. today, Thursday, June 8th. We will start with roll call, starting with my left.
Linda Davis.
Joshua Gill.
Jennifer Truman.
Tululapeo Mokaye.
Karen Ringe.
Sarah Prado.
Bryce Connors.
Terrence Roof.
Awesome. And do we have any approval of the minutes?
So, Madam Chair, we did put those up late, and at the time, I did direct staff not to put the minutes on the agenda because I didn't think they were going to be here in time, but we did put them at late. So at this time, I'll leave it up to the body to determine if you've had time to look at them. If not, then certainly we'll carry those over and bring those back at our next meeting, whatever date that may be.
I do suggest that, but has anybody read them? So we'll just bring them to the next meeting. Is there any revisions or additions to the agenda?
I have a point I'd like to make at some point.
All right. Let's add that before we get to committee notes, because we also have a new member that we want to acknowledge here on the Transit Authority. All right, and then we have so far 2 public comments. So,
Madam Chair. Jennifer, I was just speaking with Bryce Connors about confirmation that he was formally appointed to the marketing committee, and he said you were going to make a motion. Do we need to do that, set a time on the agenda?
Yeah, I think
for
there was
that?
a couple of committee appointments needed. I think Bryce was one of them, and then with the changes to route, there was some needed new members there too.
So if we just put that, can we put that on the agenda?
Yeah.
Thank you.
we'll go ahead and add that. Let's do that now. Madam Chair.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and, when I was speaking to Bryce after the meeting last month, he mentioned that he isn't formally assigned to a committee yet because we missed that when he joined the board. Sorry about that. So I just wanted to make a motion to assign him to marketing committee.
Any seconds?
I'll second it.
All right, it's been moving properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, so we're going to move Bryce to the marketing committee. Sorry about the oversight. I thought you were already on it.
That's all right.
I thought we
That's
had
all
done
right.
that.
It's been a busy year we've had.
This is true. Okay, so we do have a couple openings. We know that we're heavy on our route committee. Policy and finance currently only have 2 members. And then, well, now marketing has 2 members.
Yes.
Terrence, did you have an opportunity to decide which committee? Are you going to wait and then attend some meetings next month?
I'm gonna wait and attend some meetings.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's a good idea to give him a good idea where he wants to sit. So since we're a little bit imbalanced on route and policy and finance, is anybody interested in moving around to some other committees to get some other knowledge? Maybe somebody from route moving to policy and finance? And that could be something that doesn't have to be made right now, but by our next meeting, having that.
Well, I did want to point out, I'm going to be leaving the marketing committee by the end of the year, and so we really do need someone else to gain some experience, especially since we're about to launch a whole new campaign. So we would invite someone else from the board to join the marketing committee. It's going to be, there's some really cool things we're going to be doing.
Well, I would also really like to invite anyone to join the Finance and Policy Committee because LaTanya has moved away from the committee, and at present it's just 2 people. But anyway, we need more than 2 people.
How many are on the route committee?
I think Mr. Spencer had spoken about moving to finance and policy since they're doing some heavy things that require some knowledge over the next couple months before he leaves. But since he's not here, I don't want to speak on his behalf. So maybe this is something we need to have on our committee agendas for this month, just to make sure that we make that happen.
Which is another thing we need to add to the agenda.
Since also our new members, Dr. Ruth and whoever else this other appointee is, who I can't recall at the moment, will probably be at those. Maybe that's.
That works.
Well, and perhaps the chair could just assign people so there is even membership among all the committees.
I can do that as well. Would you all prefer that I just go ahead and move people around?
I would.
Okay. I'll reassign the committees by our next meeting. Which brings us to the conversation of our next meeting. because normally we take July off as an RTA. We still have that option, so I wanted to bring it to the authority, that we still have the option of taking July off. That means that there'll be no committee meetings or RTA meeting. But we do have some things that are in queue that need to be taken care of in some committee meetings. So the committees have the option of meeting, but we can vote whether or not we want to meet as a board next month. Normally, we take July off. And if we don't want to meet as a board, we can either just have the committees meet, and if we don't want to do that, we can just reconvene in August. Any thoughts?
I think I would be missing the July meeting anyway, so I would opt for not having it.
Okay, that's committee and board?
No, board.
Board.
Not committee.
Anybody else?
Wasn't the question if there's something we need to do?
Yeah, are there things that we knew? I know that we are working on the bylaws. We have a deadline for that, but that's not until,
So the bylaws does not have a direct deadline, but we, certainly need to get that out, I would think sometime by the end of the first quarter of the fiscal year. That would be my, the goal there. So when you come back, you would have August, September to finish those up. And then as far as the annual work plan and things of that nature, it looks like the first time we're actually going to be able to schedule that for council review is probably November because all the slots are filled. So we do have a little bit of time to make sure we've already have that put together. We'll just have to make sure that that is up to date since it will be a little later on that presentation in November. So that's the two kind of like major work items that we have, that's above and beyond your regular work items that are in the work plan.
I mean, it sounds like we can go either way. So would you all like to take a break in July? Or would you all like to at least have the committees meet?
I think it maybe makes sense to just have the committees meet, because it doesn't sound like they'll be reporting those items out yet, but that there is work that needs to be done in committee.
The marketing committee is not going to meet in July.
Okay. So how about we just take a break?
I make a motion that we take a break in July.
I second that motion. All right, so it's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor of taking a break in July, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Or we're gonna just take a break in July? Okay. That works, so we've adjusted the schedule, we've, committee appointments, and I know that Josh had an announcement that he wanted to make.
Yeah, as most of you know, I got a new job like 6 months ago, and my attendance at meetings has been spotty since then. So I was trying to make both work, but I don't think I'm going to be able to continue on the board and give it the time that I need with this new job. So I'm announcing that I'm gonna resign the board.
Josh, that's painful.
I know. After the conversation we just had,
We had full attendance. We had full board for 24 hours. As we did have our last alternate was nominated and appointed yesterday.
I'm sorry.
Or at least I know it was nominated.
I just don't think it's fair for me to continue with like not giving it everything. So
When are you planning to, when is your last day? Today?
yeah, it would be 30 days notice before the next meeting, right? So
Okay. All right, well, I'm sad to see you go. Thank you for your service here on the Raleigh Transit Authority. Your insight and everything has really, really, really been helpful. And your expertise is needed.
thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and thank you for your service to the community as well. I mean, that's awesome, what you're doing. So just thank you.
Thank you.
You're leaving us for good reason, so we completely understand. So thank you for all your hard work. Can we give him a round?
Please. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair, just to
Don't tell me.
reiterate,
Hold on, wait.
we now have only one person on finance and policy. And I would really welcome some expertise and energy to our committee.
And since we are down now a member, we have an alternate that I guess somebody's going to slide in. But we do need more people to be nominated. So if you know anybody as an authority that you would suggest put in the application to be a part of the Transit Authority, that we can keep our roster full so we can get business done if we need to. So we're going to transition to a high note before we get to the committee reports and welcome our new member, Dr. Terrence Ruth. If you don't mind introducing yourself to the Transit Authority.
So Terrence Roof, professor at NC State, just glad to serve alongside such amazing people. So looking forward to getting work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Okay, so let's jump straight into committee reports because we have a very streamlined agenda this month, and that will start with route. The chair is not here.
I think that I wasn't there that day. LaTanya sent an email to David and asked that David.
David, can you give just a brief overview? I think that would be enough to spur any questions if there might be regarding the items.
Sure. David Walker, Transit Division, and I got that email like as I was closing my computer to walk over here. So, you can see on the agenda there, we had several topics. We had a fairly long meeting. We reviewed the Hillsborough Street route that is forthcoming through the Wake Transit Plan. We had the route committee look at a couple of options for how that route may turn around at the terminus end. That will come back to route, I believe, at our next meeting in August for a final determination on what might be the best path. We talked about live bus tracking updates. Thank you to our senior planner, Melanie Roush. She has gotten our live bus feed on the Transit app. So if you download that Transit app, you will now be able to see our buses tracking throughout the system in a very similar fashion to what the Transloc site does. So we've got that. We've got the Go Raleigh Live site, and we're working tediously with Google to get the live bus feed to the Google tracking site as well. Yes?
Ask a question. How are we publicizing this the Transit app? That's important.
We haven't started that yet. That was I think it was an add-on item at the end of the committee was, how we would publicize these, and I think we suggested that come over to marketing potentially. But we're looking at different ways that we can put stuff on our public brochures to get that out there, and we'll continue. This is all fairly fresh. It all happened within the last 30 days. So it's, we're still looking at the best ways to push that out.
Okay.
But by all means, we can do it. We can use our social media platforms and let folks know in our monthly newsletters.
But perhaps there are other ways that we could do that just because
there's lots of marketing opportunities to push that out. Absolutely. We just haven't got to that point yet. Ryan Boyven gave a quick update on the Wake Transit Plan quarterly reports. A whole lot more detail there than what I could get into this evening, but a quick snippet would be our northwest route packages are not doing very well at all, and those routes in that northwest package have all been recommended for changes in FY25 through the bus plan update. So more to come on that through the Wake Bus Plan update. And the Southeast route packages that were implemented in 2019 are all performing at or above their performance metrics for the most part. There may be one or two metrics that aren't being met, but the Southeast Raleigh routes are all doing very well. The ADA and microtransit software update was we now actually are going to have different softwares for the ADA service and for microtransit. I guess key for this board is the microtransit services because that's more route specific. We are working with VIA. We have submitted a contract to be routed with them to provide software as a service. And then we will use our existing access contract with RATP Dev. We'll use those vehicles to provide service, and we're not sure what those vehicles may be branded like, but we will be using the access type vans. Sarah Tromba on our team gave a quick update on the construction process. Work that's being done. We're almost complete with our Set 6 shelters, and set 7 will be underway in the next 30 to 45 days. If you have not driven by the men's shelter in Oak City Cares on South Wilmington Street, you should do so. That's a fantastic improvement to what was there previously. It's a much larger site. It's kind of it's a new type of shelter that did use the SEPTED principles, and we worked with the SEPTED team with the City of Raleigh to come up with that design and get that implemented there. So just take a look at that shelter if you haven't had the chance to see it, and maybe we can bring you photos. Actually, there should be photos in the route committee slides that were uploaded to board docs, so you can take a look at what that site via that opportunity. And the public brochures and how to ride, that was part of the conversation with how we publicize some of the new things that we're implementing through the transit app. So that's a very quick overview.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, when you say public brochures, what are you talking about?
The chair had a
electronic?
specific question about some of the text and language in our brochures, and she wanted us to take a look at it.
terms of-
It was a very long meeting, and that was the last item that was brought to the table, and we didn't really have a lot of time to talk about it, so that will be coming back to the August meeting. That was a specific request from the chair. The chair of Route Committee. Thank you.
All right. Any questions?
I do have a question. I'm sorry to belittle a point. So, Jen, was that a request from you? Are you the new chair of the route committee?
No, LaTanya.
It was LaTanya. So she's wanting to, and the reason I'm asking this is that we're talking in the marketing committee and with the marketing team about updating the website and with, clear directions basically on and perhaps a video on how to ride the bus.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
I
wondering.
was not at the route meeting as I was attending the Congress for New Urbanism in Charlotte last week, riding the awesome light rail instead of being at the route committee meeting. So I'm not sure what the discussion was. I know she had sent a note ahead of the meeting saying that it was related to how you interact with the information at the bus stops as well as what's available on the bus. So, David could maybe be more specific about her question, but to your point, it was a long meeting, so maybe there's more discussion to transfer some of that to marketing.
It does seem like the public brochure should be in the marketing.
Yeah.
Staff did make that recommendation that it may be a more appropriate conversation in marketing committee. There were a few topics, and again, she really didn't have time to fully discuss some of the things she was thinking about. So we decided at this point we'll just keep it en route, let her fully vet what her concerns and thoughts were, and then we'll determine whether it should be moved over to marketing.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, moving along to policy and finance.
Okay. The Finance and Policy Committee met last week, and I attended. And this will just be are you going to do that? Are we going to talk about
We do have the slides. I think there's only 4 or 5 slides for the 5310. I'll be happy to run through those if you like, or you can provide an overview. Either way you would like.
Yeah, I'd love for you to run through those.
Okay.
So the first thing that we did in our committee meeting was go through the 5310 award selections, and these slides will help explain the awards process. And go ahead.
So on every 2 years, on a biennial basis, we have the 5310 distribution of funds. We actually receive 5310 funds annually, and that's through a formula distribution, which most of our transit formula distributions are based on population and other demographic data that really targets the individuals that the funds are really supposed to serve. And as you can see from above or on the screen, 5310 funds are slated for seniors and persons with disabilities. So all of the programs and services that are out there for the 5310 program are supposed to meet that target, for seniors and persons with disabilities. You can go to the next slide. So with this round of applications, we did solicit applications back in February, and that ended in late March. And that was for grant awards for this fiscal year and probably calendar year 23 and 24 is the best way to think about that. And that is for the Raleigh-Cary urbanized area. And you actually see our UZA there. So it's not just the city of Raleigh. This isn't like we're thinking about the ADA access coverage area. This is the entire MPO area, as you can see, covers a very large area of Wake County and then pieces of surrounding counties as well. Go back one real quick there, Andrea. I'm sorry. So the program of projects is approved by the Capital Area MPO, and they are in their executive board. So I'm probably going to be out of sync with these slides a little bit, but 5310 funds, the way that works is that Go Raleigh or the city of Raleigh is the designated recipient for those funds. So FTA looks to us to do a distribution of those funds to eligible entities. As part of that process, we have an agreement with the MPO where they actually, since it's larger than just the city of Raleigh, the MPO actually solicits for projects to be awarded those funds. So again, and it's the MPO's executive body which makes that final determination. And the city certainly has representation on the MPO, just like the mayors of all of the jurisdictions within Wake County, as well as the county commissioners of those counties represented. Okay, next slide. So under this particular scenario, we had about $2 million available, or $2.3 million in total funds available. There were some, that just gives a breakdown of what years the funds were available back from 17 through 22. The COVID funds, we didn't receive a lot of COVID funds, but you can see that under both programs, we received just shy of $115,000. And they did come with some special rules. We actually have to provide applications just for those funds, but those were exempt. Again, very small portion of those overall funds, but they did not require a match requirement and could not be used for capital equipment generally. All right. So our grant applications that the MPO actually received. So there was 2.272 of the 2.3 recommended for funding. 7 organizations applied for the funding, and 6 organizations were actually recommended for funding. Next slide. And this is an actual overview of those entities that will receive funding over the 2-year period. The Capital Area MPO, Center for Volunteer Caregiving, the Community and Senior Services of Johnston County, Go Triangle, Go Wake, and that's generally not just Go Wake. Well, Go Wake Access really blankets most of all of their services for Wake County. And then Pearl Transit Corporation. And then you see under the project summary just a general scope there. And just remember that this is funding over a 2-year period, not for a single year. Next slide. And that was it. So again, we have brought this back just so that the body knows what funds we are receiving and how we are responsible, again, as the designated recipient, to work with the MPO to make sure that these get distributed. Under FTA rule, these really are, funds are meant to go out into the community. They're not just for the transit agency to take and say, hey, we're going to use this for seniors and persons with disabilities. It's actually meant to help nonprofits and other agencies, serve those populations within the communities that make up the overall MPO. So again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Thanks. The next discussion during that meeting was about future budget considerations. As you may recall, we had a joint meeting with the Route Committee last month to talk about the fact that the Raleigh Transit Authority is funded, we have about 4 or 5 sources of our funds, but we have been fortunate to have the COVID relief funds that came in during the pandemic, and we've been using those funds to meet our balanced budget goals, and we are in good shape through FY24, but we really do anticipate, since we aren't getting those funds, that by FY25, we are going to be in a shortfall situation. So we had met joint committees once, and then this past week, I was able to just ask staff some questions and find out a little bit more, a little bit deeper dive into where our funding comes from. And I would just say that those discussions will continue. We already know that in terms of the city's budget, we have not had any kind of increase for several years. And so it may be that it's time for us to ask for more funding for RTA from the city. But that's just an update of where we stand, continued discussions, and we will be doing that over the next month or two. The final topic was the bylaws.
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chair, regarding the budget, did you all discuss what's in the proposed city budget for fares?
Well, we didn't discuss exactly, as you know, when we discussed at our last meeting, the city manager had asked us not to include fares, reinstating fares, in the budget that was submitted for the city council to approve. It's a relatively small amount of the overall RTA budget, and so in terms of what the city council is currently considering in terms of the FY24 budget, we didn't really discuss that because what we're doing is trying to project
Right.
FY25.
Right. No, I understand that's a serious situation, and a little surprising considering we voted to reinstate fares, that the city manager's budget does not include the fares.
Well, yes, I totally agree with you, and we did talk about that at the last meeting last month, but as you know, we did submit a letter to City Council saying that we voted as a majority to reinstate the fares. So I think we are on record as telling City Council that we believe we need to go back to charging fares.
Is there any way that we can resubmit a budget?
David, do you know if we can
City Council?
resubmit?
The reason I'm asking, because I know that we're saying, fares itself is a small percentage, but we're also talking about the corporate contracts that we're leaving out, the contracts with colleges that we're leaving out by not charging for fares. So it's not just the fare box fares.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when we're talking about that, we're specifically talking about the fare box.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so many more fares that go into, there's so much more money left on the table of us not charging for fares other than the fare box. So is there a way that if we're talking about we need an increased budget, that we can submit an actual budget of what we actually need with the fares, because we are facing a deficit.
Yes, certainly, from a staff perspective, we, provide the budget by direction from the budget office. We try to keep the board obviously informed of that, as well as our future, financial considerations as we move forward. But certainly, if you're trying to think about how can that be relayed to council? So certainly, the board developed a memo last time stating, this was your position. And if that would be your communication to council, if you.
But wouldn't a budget be more official than a letter?
I'm not sure what I understand what you mean by a budget, like a transit authority proposed budget.
Like, we're talking about our future budget in the FY24 budget, but we submitted
Correct.
it and we didn't put fares.
Well, one thing is that we don't actually do the budget. The city manager,
The budget office
the
does
budget
the budget.
office
Yes.
develops the budget.
So they just asked us to approve it without
They
the
just
fares.
showed it to us.
So that has nothing to do with us.
If I recall, when we did approve sending the FY24 budget as it was written, the budget office presented that they didn't include the income for fares, but they did include the expense for fares. That way they were submitting a fiscally conservative budget. It's easier, this is my recollection, staff, please correct me if I'm wrong, but they stated that it was easier to add the fare revenue than to
project
add the
it and
fare
then-
expenses based on the will of council. So I think,
That is correct. There certainly aren't any cuts to the transit budget. I mean, we're actually seeing growth due to the Wake Transit Fund itself.
But we are still facing a deficit.
Well, as
Not in FY24,
Yes,
but potentially
not-
beyond.
right, and that's why we really, what we were trying to do when we started even having the discussion was get ahead of such a deficit and start thinking about and talking about how we might increase our budget, how we might increase our funds, and at least in my mind, and I'm just one person, we're trying to anticipate an opportunity very early in FY24 that we can go to City Council and make the case, or go, to budgeting authorities, to the council, and say, we are growing our transit and we need more money. We've not had an increase in a long time. We've not even had inflationary increases. And so, again, these are just preliminary discussions that FY25 does not begin for another year and a half, so.
May I ask a question of David? Why is it we're projecting a deficit when we have the half-cent sales tax and and the Wake Transit Plan is projecting expansions? And I know that the Wake Transit plans cannot replace existing funds, but why is it that we're facing a deficit given we should be having expanded funds?
So we get reimbursed on added service by the Wake Transit Plan. And so those added services, which now represent about 35 to 40% of our total budget, have inflation and other costs built into that. And so the Wake Transit Plan is actually absorbing those cost increases within that pot of that I'll just use 40%, of that 40% of our total budget. The other 60% of our total budget is tied directly to the city of Raleigh and to the general fund. And so you're thinking, so it's basically like the COVID funds have been able to they have been able to hide the inflationary increases that we experienced during COVID. As everyone's aware, that ranges between 4% and 8%, depending upon the type of commodity that you're looking at on an annual compounded basis. So of that 60%, you still have that inflationary growth. And so the use of those COVID funds has been wonderful. I mean, it's allowed us to, to address our fare-free because of the safety concerns. It's certainly been a benefit to the city overall, but certainly those funds do have a use, kind of a lifespan, and we do project that they will be utilized, if not completely by the end of '24. Very early in FY25. So hopefully that was a good, a decent explanation.
That helps a lot.
Thanks. And as I say, the last thing we discussed was the bylaws, and it is our hope that we will have another discussion at our next meeting and be able to finalize and approve what our committee agrees we can report out for the whole authority. And I would like very much to do that by the September meeting. And hopefully, as David said earlier, we'll be able to agree on our bylaws in the first quarter of the next fiscal year so that we can get them in and have the city know how we want to operate. If anybody, those bylaws are in draft form and they're on board docs, I would urge everyone to take a look at them, and if you have any specific things you see that you would like us to consider, please send it to me and we'll take it up at our next meeting.
Thank you.
And that was it. Thanks.
Any questions? All right, thanks. So we're gonna pause the meeting really quickly at 4:12 for public comments. All right, our first public comment comes from Dwight Spencer.
Good afternoon, Raleigh Transit Authority members. Madam Chair, always a pleasure to see you. I want to, first of all, say thank you and welcome Dr. Ruth, whom I know pretty well, and to all the other new members of the authority. I'm Dwight Spencer, and I'm the CEO of North Carolina Transit Workers Association. We are the new voice for transit workers across the state of North Carolina, and we advocate for them, and our board has just approved to advocate for school bus operators and special needs school transportation as well. But I do want to come and say, first of all, in our closing of our summer year, on behalf of our board of directors, our chairperson, Mrs. Krista Harge, and our vice chair, Ms. Barbara Shields, to say thank you to the Raleigh Transit Authority. Thank you to Raleigh City Transit staff for participating in our NCTAA Transit Career Program. And we closed out at Enloe High School, and Ms. Andrea, she was like a professor. She did very well representing the city transit staff. And so thank you so much, David Walker. And I do want to recognize our temporary director of that program, Mr. Herbert Chavez, who is our executive director for that program. But I do want to say thank all of you. And I do want to say it feels good to come before this authority and have no complaints on Raleigh Transit. That's a great feeling. And I just met Bill from RATDev. I've been meaning to meet with him. We have sat down with Mr. Robert Smith, one of the senior vice presidents of RATP Dev. We have met a couple of times, and we have heard nothing but good things at Go Raleigh headquarters on Poole Road. So thank you so much, Mr. Smith, and Bill, and we look forward to working with you in the near future. And also, lastly, we're going to be sitting down and holding a dialogue with some concerned advocates in the community of Southeast Raleigh on the zoning on Newbern Avenue corridor about the BRT. And we have very concerns about that. We're going to weigh our pros and cons after we sit down and talk with some strong advocates who have strong concerns about the rezoning of that as the city prepare to have the BRT come into existence. And I do want to say that I think the city, the customers that they want to target, I don't think it's going to work, but we don't want to run away the customers that we already have. And so that's going to be very important to the Transit Association. And we are going to start a campaign in the winter and fall, and we hope that the city transit staff be a part of it. We want to try to encourage people to use transit, because right now, looking at the data, transit numbers are down as far as customers. So not only here in Raleigh, but across the state and the Triangle. So we are going to do a Triangle campaign through in by PSAs and try to encourage people to use more transit, park their cars and use transit. And also our fall and winter on our part of our agenda is to do a Triangle job fair. I have mentioned this to Mr. Charles Lakuta with Go Triangle, CEO of Go Triangle. So we're looking forward to working with the different transit agencies across the Triangle area and across the state. And I always tell people we have the best transit in the Triangle area, so we're going to keep it that way, and we're going to do our part. But our first objective is to make sure that our bus operators and our transit workers are treated fairly, and making sure that they are taken care of, because they are the strongest ambassadors to transit, and we got to keep them happy. And as long as RATP do good, RAPTDev do good, we're going to do good, right, Bill? But thank you so much. And again, Madam Chair and Karen, I don't know what y'all going to do, but if we lose y'all, I don't know what we're going to do, but we hope y'all stay on another term. And I also want to thank Nathan Spencer, the Vice Chair. Nathan was one of the presenters at Enloe High School as we closed out our school year. So thank all of you for what you do for transit, and we are here to work with you. We're here to try to help build and make Raleigh Transit the best it can be. Thank you so much, and have a great afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. All right, the next person is Rebecca Henderson, sorry about that.
Hi there, my name is Rebecca Henderson, and I'm in front of you today as a frequent bus and bike rider. And I'd like to draw your attention to a problem that concerns both modes of transportation. The Blunt Street bike lane is one of downtown's few separated bike lanes, yet it is consistently blocked by buses in between Hargett and Martin, where the backside of the Go Raleigh station is. The bus isn't making a quick stop. It's typically, I've seen the Zebulon one there a lot. Rather, it's just sitting there, often off. These stationary buses block a significant part of the bike lane, causing bikers to dart into traffic in one of the busiest stretches of Blunt. The stationary buses also block the beginning of the nearby crosswalk, blocking pedestrians from driver's sight. I've seen a number of pedestrians, as a driver, almost get hit because they don't see them coming out. This isn't an occasional issue, it is a constant one. In fact, it is so frequent that if you go on Google Street View to this exact location, you will see a bus blocking the bike lane. The stop buses create a dangerous situation for bikers, pedestrians, and even drivers. I'm asking for the buses to no longer be allowed to sit in the bike lane, but rather in the very large bus station right next door. Allowing them to do so endangers other users of our streets and cheapens the idea that Raleigh takes alternate forms of transportation seriously. Thank you for your time and your service on this board, and I'm very excited for the BRT. So, thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Is there anything we can do about the bus blocking the bike lane?
So that gets in a couple of areas. I mean, what I can do is staff can provide a report on that, and we'll provide that back out. Certainly, we do have queuing for certain routes at that location on Blunt Street currently. We have a number of things in motion. Looking at the existing, bike lane structures for the north-south connectors on the east side of downtown. We have a new bus facility which is getting under construction right beside Raleigh Union Station, which will relieve some of the congestion at our existing station as well. So there's a number of things that are there. I'm not sure that I'm prepared to go into detail on all of those, but let us provide a quick report back at the next meeting. Either we can do that with a verbal update with some slides, or certainly we can have a staff report.
So I know that the 300 and the 305, I don't know for sure about the 305. I know the 300, maybe the 305, now pick up at that spot rather than when they used to pick up in the station? Why? And I noticed that it's mostly the Wake Transit or like the Go Triangle buses that pick up at that location. Why has that switch been made?
I'll ask Mr. Walker if he's aware of what that change has been, and if not, we can certainly
years,
add to
probably
the
like
report.
2 or 3 years that it's been that way. I just don't know why.
It boils down to a capacity issue inside the station. We've worked with Go Triangle. They did bring some of their routes inside the station about a year and a half ago, I believe. The main issue is with their routes, with the length of them, and that they travel on I-40. They have to build a lot of extra travel time into their routes. So they arrive at the station sometimes 15, 20, even 25, 30 minutes early, and then they have to sit there. And we don't have capacity for storage like that inside the station. So they then moved back outside to Wilmington Street and Blunt Street stops.
And once Russ Bus is built, they'll move all of those buses over to that location?
The bus plan update did do a study for, how best things could be distributed between the two sites. And there are plans for relief for Go Raleigh Station, yes.
First of all, thanks for coming, Ms. Henderson. I'm glad the conference last week inspired you to come and speak up publicly. There are a lot of really excited transit advocates at that conference last week. I'm glad some of them are here in Raleigh. I just wanted to point out that I think this is one of the opportunities for collaboration with other boards that we've talked about several times over the last year, because the Bike and Pedestrian Advisory Committee has a good catalog of best practices for how buses and bikes should interact. And I know staff is aware of some of those, and we're working on permanent improvements as we implement Russ Bus and the BRT switches. But it may also be a resource for temporary solutions, like the bus protecting the bikes by simply have them park off the curb, if that's possible, right? So that may not be the best solution, because I just thought of it 3 seconds ago, but there is resources within our boards and commissions for doing those things. And whatever it takes to, have route committee or have staff actually make those outreaches to those boards and put it on their agenda as well, I think we need to do that.
I think that's a good opportunity for maybe even us having a presentation here as the whole transit authority around how buses and bikes can coexist on the road, and that way it can inform any decisions we're making going forward as an authority. So if we can work on that, David, that would be awesome. All right, I'm calling the meeting back to order at 4:23, and we're going to come in squaring with our last committee meeting, which is the marketing committee.
Madam Chair, before we do that, I have a hard stop at 4:30, so can I be excused at 4:30, please?
Oh, yes.
Thank
please.
you.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce our marketing staff to give us a review of the concepts, the advertising concepts that they've been working really hard on for launching our new marketing campaign. And is Dwight Spencer still here? No, maybe I'll follow up with him. As you all know, we've have a $200,000 budget for this fiscal year, this upcoming fiscal year, beginning July 1, to try a different take on an advertising campaign to help build ridership. And Andrew Miller has come up with, along with Andrea, a very clever approach to the marketing campaign, to this ad campaign. And at the committee meeting this past week, he gave me a presentation on some of those ads, and I asked him to come today to share.
Yes, thank you. My name is Andrew Miller with the Transit Division. I'll show you, Terrence, I will give you a little bit of overview. So our goal was to, since we were Go Raleigh, we wanted to touch on the subject of all the different ways that you can go using the bus system. So speaking of like go play, go shop, go dine, we'll get a little bit more into it. But we wanted a way that we could elaborate on that and be variant with it, since there's so many different activities and so many different things to do with all the people moving into Raleigh. So we came up with the Busopoly design. So if you look here, all of the routes represent, or all of the spaces on the board represent one of our routes. So you can see that, so no matter where you want to go throughout the city. All of the routes are represented here. And we'll jump into the different ways that you can go. So we wanted to talk about on any one of these routes, you can go do something. So to the rest of you, we asked for your feedback on which go terms we want represented. And so we tried to categorize them, doing it seasonally. And so what we came up with is for during the summer when we first launched our campaign would be Go Play, speaking on all of the outdoor activities, concerts, different events that people can use the bus service and different alternate forms of transportations to go play and go enjoy all the different activities that are available to our community throughout the summer months whenever there's a lot going on. As we transition into fall and all the students are going back to school and we have all the colleges, NC State in the area with people coming back to school, encourage students and people who want to, be inquisitive that they can take the bus to go to school, go to their classes. They can go to museums, they can go to libraries and all the different education options presented in the Raleigh area. Then as we transition into winter, obviously people are going to be out shopping for their loved ones as they, get ready for the holiday seasons. So that way we can encourage people that they can take the bus to do that. And then as we transition into the new year and into the spring, encourage people that they can have, it's a new year, they can have alternative commute options by taking the bus or those other alternative forms of transportation as well. So moving into the designs, this is somewhat similar to what we have shown you in the past. Some feedback that we wanted was to be able to see the go terms in the background. So you can see here, this is touching on concerts. So this is, during the summer, like I mentioned. So this is Go Play. So you have the illusion here, you really appeal to people by an actual activity that they can see, themselves doing. And then you look at the card that represents the route on which the users and riders can access this said activity that we want to highlight. So in this particular option, it was route number 8, and that just highlights all the different places along that route that you can go play and go experience different things along that route. And then at the bottom, you're able to touch on the, if it's a high frequency route, 30 minutes or 15 minutes, we want to highlight that so people can know that that's a reliable service that they can use. And then also one thing that was feedback was we wanted more branding for Go Raleigh. So if people were looking at this for the first time, they would see that. So we have the Go Raleigh logo in the bottom as well as a little bus icon. And then at the top, it also says Go Raleigh and touches on Busopoly as well. You'll notice at the bottom of the card that we have the website there. So we'll have a landing page on our website where people can learn more about our bus system, learn how to ride and how easy it is to ride, the simple steps to ride, and then learn more about the Busopoly campaign and how they can play as we get the campaign launched in July. So this is just an example of how we would use one of these ads. This is a sample social media ad. So this is touching on every Thursday throughout the summer in North Hills. There's a Midtown beach music concert. So this is just an example of how people can take this route that goes directly there from downtown to this specific event, and they're able to use Go Raleigh to go experience that, something that many people go and do every single Thursday throughout the summer, and just be able to utilize Go Raleigh to do that. And we also touched on that when we first launched the campaign, in this description text above the graphic, as we can talk about, hey, this is the Busopoly campaign, here's how you can get involved and play and learn more, and then we'll link all of these ads to that landing page on our website. This is an example of how we can be flexible with our designs and our ideas. This is we advertise with the Carolina Mudcats on some outfield wall signs. Their season starts way earlier than our campaign is supposed to launch in July. So this is a design that we went ahead and sent to them. And this is a way that we can use the different cards, like the chance cards, if you can imagine Monopoly, the different ways that we can integrate different stuff that might not have a route that is necessarily on the board. This specific route, Go Raleigh operates, but it is a Go Triangle route. So this is a way that we can implement other ideas and routes into our marketing campaign. So this is talking about use the ZWX to connect to downtown Raleigh for your daily work commute. So this route goes directly from Zebulon and links all the way directly to downtown. So this is just encouraging people who are probably in that area, in Zebulon and the surrounding areas, going to a Mudcats game, that they can utilize Go Raleigh to go to work every day. And you can see the Go Work in the background, and then we wanted to use some photos from the Mudcats to kind of appeal, since it's in the ballpark setting. And then this is just another example. So another route that goes near there is Route 33. This route does not connect directly to downtown, but rather it goes around Nightdale, and there's a lot of shopping along that route. So we decided to go with Go Shop here. And, you know, just another way to encourage people that they can use Go Raleigh in their everyday lives, and no matter what they're doing, whether that's work, shopping, or just enjoying time with family. Anyone have any questions?
Or comments? I mean, this is a great opportunity for you to provide feedback to the staff.
I love it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that campaign and like ready to figure out how to play. I am curious if for the like specific events, particularly that we're highlighting for the summer, if you've been able to like contact the venues and have them include bus riding instructions. Like often they have parking instructions for the events. Have you guys been able to make some of those connections?
Yeah, so with a lot of, you know, these big events, specifically with, I'll touch on the ones that are probably big, like the Mudcats and the Hurricanes. Obviously, some of that is not during the summer months, but yeah, actually, when I first started, did a lot of research to see like if that was an option, because a lot of people, if they're going to a Mudcats game for the first time or a Hurricanes game for the first time or a concert, that's what they're going to look at, is how can I get there? So we've done some of that. And as we get closer and we start to implement all of these designs, we can definitely reach out to these people. And we also have a new member on our team. Her name is Rachel, and she's going to be working in Jana's previous role, and she'll be working with a lot of businesses. So as we move forward with that, she'll be able to help develop some of those relationships as well. Unfortunately, her and Mason, they had to go to another TDM-related event today, so y'all won't be able to meet her. But we do have a new team member, and she'll be able to help develop some of those relationships as well.
That's cool. It's just one way to leverage the system and landing pages you guys are it's great to have, because then you can make those connections.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really like it. I'm super excited about it. I think it's so creative, and I think it's going to be really appealing.
My only concern is that having like the shop watermark all over the photo makes it look like, it kind of makes it look like a stock photo you didn't pay for the rights for. Like just having that watermark throughout the whole background. That's just a personal.
On the watermark, I just looking at it again, I did have a thought. Like when you're running social media, you're adding additional words like, you know, hop on the bus to go do whatever. I'm wondering, like this one right here. I'm wondering if it could, in addition to Go Play, it also might say Go Raleigh in it, so that if you're not focusing on what's on the Busopoly card, you're still seeing the words Go Play, Go Raleigh. It was an additional thought, because it is a lot of text on the card, and it's good information. And you do have the logo, but again, it's small. So I'm just wondering, I don't know if anyone has that thought or reaction to it in terms of understanding when I see Go Play, that this is a Go Raleigh ad. Any reaction to that?
No, I think that, because it says Go Raleigh about 3 places on the card, at the top, in the website, and in the logo. So I feel like if somebody's going to look at it and they're seeing Go Play, maybe if we space them out more. Honestly, it's a bit nitpicky. I think I like it the way it is. I think there's a whole lot of energy has been put into it. And, you know, we've seen this, so, you know, so we're kind of like, okay, we kind of start, the longer you keep showing it to us, we're going to have more insight and feedback to give on how things can change or whatever. I think that what we need to do is maybe roll out and see what the public thinks of it and get some feedback from like ridership.
Yeah. And Karen, it could be medium based as well. Obviously, if it's on social media like you see here, it's going to be branded with Go Raleigh above it, so people will know that. But maybe if it's through a different, more public facing that we don't control necessarily our branding, like here on social media, that we might could add some more branding that way.
And certainly with, radio, you're going to be using the words.
Like maybe even having to go live.
And a lot of this is digital
outside
that we're doing.
Correct.
Like maybe even having the Go Raleigh logo outside in the watermarks or something.
Yeah, and the beauty of all this and our decision to go digital is if it is not working, then it takes a couple emails and a few clicks to change it. So, that's where we can be adaptive and change it throughout the year.
So you'll be obviously monitoring the response and the click rate.
Yes, all the social media aspects I will be handling internally, and then all of our outside people that we're working with, we ask them to give us monthly reports so we get active data from them, and then we'll be able to change up or adjust depending on their recommendations for their own mediums, and then along on our end if we want to overhaul something as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
Just to respond to Karen's point, like on a lot of social media, including Instagram and Facebook, you see the organizations that's posting it just below the actual image. So that's another reemphasis of the Go Raleigh.
Good
so.
With other other activities like things going on at Dick's Park, for instance, will you be able to make available the images if they agree that they can include our logos or our directions on their materials or on their websites?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it's internally within the city, there's a lot of collaboration there. And if there's specific events and, we can plan ahead. We have the capability to go out and get photos for ourselves, so it doesn't have to be a stock photo, which I know can be kind of bland sometimes. But we have the opportunity to work, especially within the city, to do that. When it's outside businesses or different venues, sometimes that can be a little more tricky, but obviously make those connections, and all you can do is ask and go from there.
Yeah, because I know that's just the one I know is really active and adding activities all the time, yoga, all these things. But even things like Durham Bulls or, like you have done with the Mudcats. Mm-hmm. I think the graphics are so good, it would be really great to be able to supply that if in the communication, if you find out that they're willing to say, yeah, you can use transit to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll work as we discover new events, and sometimes they pop up months in advance, and sometimes it's a couple of days, but that's the beauty. We can adapt, and then whenever we reach out and talk to these different organizations, we can mention that and ask if they're willing to help us advertise on there, and then in turn, hopefully get more people to their events by people who want to use transit.
We have, I did connect the staff with the head of marketing for the North Carolina Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, because a lot of the things that are going to be included in Go Play and Go Learn are museums and et cetera. And we're hoping that there's going to be some contact there, which is not as event specific as what you're talking about, and I concur.
How often do we, I know there's a lot of stuff that's going on in Moore Square, and like it's right across from the station. So how often are we plugging into what's going on there to tell people about the bus or get them surveyed about things or just spread awareness or engagement?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but we can definitely research and get back to you. And maybe that's, another opportunity that we can use this campaign to reach out and start that relationship.
To that point, I've been working at the farmers market most of the weekends, and it would be great to have some Go Raleigh flyers at the city information table, because a lot of people stop by to ask general questions there. I know it's right beside the bus station, so we don't normally think about doing that because it's like the information is across the street, but many people are just walking up. Although I have heard multiple patrons say, hey, I took the bus here, it was great. So it's working, but we could just have a little more info.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't hurt.
Hey, thank you.
I just have one quick question. What's the target audience for this particular strategy rollout, and then how do you sort of target that audience, or at least hear from that audience based on what you're trying to?
Right. So we have all of our ridership data for that we can pull from all of our system, the entire system. And so our goal is to continue to remind our current riders, and we can, pinpoint it down to the bus stop and a radius around that to routes. So we obviously want to encourage people who are actively riding the bus to continue to do that. But our goal is to reach more people who may be on the fence or they haven't even considered it, to realize that you can go do all of these things that you do in your daily life, and you can use Go Raleigh's bus system to do that. And so we're working with, especially with some of our SEO partners that we're working with and retargeting ads, that we can attract those people and see that, hey, if you are going to Red Hat every week or once a month during the summer to go to a concert and you're searching Red Hat and all the things to do downtown, that is going to retarget them and show them that Go Raleigh is an option. And so obviously we want to continue the ridership that we have, but our goal is to increase it through different events and all the different things that people are actively doing in their daily lives, and then nudge them a little bit and say, hey, you can use Go Raleigh to go to these events and be a part of your everyday life.
And also, I wanted to add that since you're new, we ran a campaign for a year using a variety of different outlets between, digital, radio, print, even billboards, in, some Spanish language, diverse outlets. And we learned a lot and got a lot of data from that about kind of what worked and what didn't work. And we learned that the Triangle Business Journal wasn't really very responsive, for example. So the staff has kind of recreated a new spreadsheet of a whole variety of outlets targeting different markets. So, and if you want that information, we can get it to you.
Thank you.
So.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andrew, for all your hard work. Thank you to marketing. All right, so we are at the end of our agenda. Do any authority members have anything they would like to share before we close out?
I just had a quick question on performance reports. It seems like we don't have all the usual ones this month.
We are in transition between two management companies, so all of that paperwork process, due to the contract structure change, is changing. We hope to get back on track with some prior month data as well, right around the beginning of the fiscal year start, which starts July 1. So hopefully by the time you all get back in October, we'll be good to go.
August.
October.
Andy, it
I'm
can
thinking
be.
my brain's all messed up. I've got a calendar year, a federal physical year, which is October, and then I've got a new contract on top of that. So my apologies.
Off. And then I guess, Madam Chair, when we return in August, will we be asking our general manager to do those reports again, like
Yes,
we had
please.
previously?
As we come back to get any updates, and it would be great to maybe even have an update from our new management company about how things are going with the transition in August. August, we'll wait. Anybody?
I think yes.
I know you do. You're leaving. Yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah.
I had one other little addition.
Good afternoon, everyone. As everybody know, I'm the new general manager for Go Raleigh. And I guess, first of all, I want to say is I want to throw out an invite to all of you on Fridays, mostly in the afternoon. I ride the bus, and so I'll be putting out a schedule when I'm on the bus, and I would like for you, at your convenience, to come join me. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the riders will really get excited with that. And so I just want to put that out there to you. So just talk about Go Raleigh. We on the road, moving in the right direction. As you know, we just finished the transition with fixed route, but there's a few other things that we're still working on. I think overall that we is being very successful. And I know, Madam Chair, you had got a couple of calls about payroll, but now I think that we have that under control. We got some new things that I don't think any transfer agency have in their system. And basically what it is we have a app, what we call Blink. And in Blink is that if operator has any problems with pay or anything, it gets to us where we says right then. And so if we're in the middle of the night, an operator has a complaint about their payroll or what things is, they can easily get on the app to that manager, and that manager looks at it and reply back. And that next day when they get in, he can go ahead and work on it. And so I think that's a great tool in terms of us communicating. And I know that in the past, that's been one of the things that has been a challenge. And so we're doing a lot of good things. We're getting ready to do another run cut. In that run cut is that in the past is where that people had to work 6 days a week. They had to work like on a span of 8 hours a day, which caused a lot of fatigue. And so we have went back and we have taken all that out, where people have a consecutive 2 days off, where that it's not split days. We have tailored those routes down to where they're like 12 hours with the splits in it, so they can get home and get some rest and be able to come back the next day and be able to function safely. And that's what we're all about, is functioning safely out there in the community. And just to kind of throw another good thing out there is we installing a system, what we call Drive Cam, on all our buses and in our cars. Is one of the world-class safety type of thing that you can probably see. So it's a tool that helps us with driving behavior. So as a driver is going down the street, if he's speeding, it activates. If they make a hard turn or hit the curb, it activates. If they brake hard, it activates. Any kind of things that it feels like it's unsafe, and all that information comes back to the management staff immediately, so that when that operator comes in, and this is not discipline. I want to make sure everybody understands. This is not discipline, but this is a way where we can enhance the driving behaviors of the operators so that, we have a safe city. Raleigh is a beautiful place. I love it here. And to do that, we got to make sure that we are doing things safe. The other thing is we are in the process with the access to doing the transition. We got a start date of 1 July. I'm sure that we're going to make that without any problems. We are working very hard. And I got to say, with Dave Walker, he has been a really trooper in helping us get through this transition, both on the fixed route as the access side. And so, as I said earlier, you're going to see the train begin to move. I know you're probably saying it's moving slow, but the train always starts slow, but it increases as it gets its momentum. And so that's what we're doing at RATP DEP right now. So basically what we're looking at right now for Go Raleigh is the goals for 2023 to the end of the year. One is to get back to normal service. That means is get all our service back from the pandemic, and that's what we're working on. And how do we do that? Is through serious recruitment. Working with the city, they have really given us a lot to work with. So I want to say thanks to Dave and Dave with our recruitment. We are hoping to get enough operators so that we can go back to regular service and be able to serve the community like we said that we would do. To include is working with Army bases. I'll be going out to, what's that place? Fayetteville, and also going down to South Carolina on the Army bases to see can we get some mechanics, because as well as we got resources to drive the buses, we got to have resources to fix the buses. And so those are hand-in-hand situations that we are working on right now. So we're really, really doing some hard recruiting, and we hope that that's going to help us a lot. I talked about the run cut. Let's talk about employee engagement. And this is where all of you come to be a part of, is that employee engagement. And this is why, as we have major events here at Go Raleigh, we appreciate you come. And we just had a 20-year celebration for the 20-year people that have retired. We had a big event, turned out extremely well. We had an event for Memorial Day where we brought in food trucks and music and that kind of stuff, is to let the operators know that we appreciate them, and that's going over well. And the next one, we're going to need all of you. And that is at the end of July, we will be having a huge family day at a park. And so RATP DEP will be funding all of this. This will not come out of anybody's budget, but RATP DEP. So that, I'm hoping that all of you would come out and join us to have some fun. I think the operators would really, really, really like that. So the last thing that I want to tell you is some good news. Our deputy CEO from France will be in town on the 21st of this month, with the CEO for the U.S. Both of them will be here. They're coming here to Go Raleigh just to pay a visit and see how things are going. They're coming and check on me to make sure that what I told you I would do, that I'm doing that. And so it's really exciting is how the corporate headquarters and the international team has taken on and really been responsive to what we want to make sure this city turn out to be. Go Raleigh is one of those things that's true in my heart, and Raleigh is true in my heart. And so I'm looking as to making sure that what I told you from the first day I got here is that my job is to make sure I give that quality service to the community. My job is to make sure that people have a good quality life, and I'm going to do that. That's the last thing I do. That's what I would do. So I think that's what I have as of right now. Hopefully in the next month, I will come back and kind of give you a better update. Thank you, Dave.
And that was Bill's unprepared comment, so be careful. So be careful what you ask for. But Bill, that's awesome. That was awesome. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I would love for us to get a calendar invite for the family day. That way it's on our schedules. Are there any other remarks? Okay, great. Well, let's call this meeting to a close today, Thursday, June 8th at 4:53 p.m. Thank you all.